Our last panel represents a key cross-section of policy leaders in our community whose agencies are part of the backbone of the Sacramento Sierra's civic world. Paul Minicucci, Board Chair of the Sacramento Sierra Digital Art Studio Partnership, will anchor this circle. Matt Perry will speak from the Sacramento City Unified School District Superintendent's Office. Deborah Edwards, the head of the For Art's Sake initiative from the Office of the Sacramento Mayor, Kevin Johnson. Matt Cervantes, Youth Program Officer for the Sierra Health Foundation, one of the funders of the DAPP project. And finally, Dennis Mangers, recently Senior Advisor to our own President Pro Tem, Senator Darrell Steinberg, and a board member of both SSDASP and the Sacramento Regional Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am Paul Minicucci. I am the chairman of the Sacramento Sierra Digital Arts Studio Partnership, and Dr. Bronson's partner in crime for the last 10 years. Just a little bit of history. After working at the state level to try to introduce digital media arts into the state lexicon and legislation, Bill and I decided to put more of our efforts onto the local level in this region. And we thought that it would be the paragon of what we could do would be to find a program where we could combine our three major objectives: workforce training, educational improvement, and citizen engagement. Skilled workers, lifelong learners, engaged citizens. That's what DASP is all about. And so we came upon the idea of trying to take students who had already represented some level of expertise by their entrance into the Teen Digital Reel, and to have their teachers nominate 2 or 3 students to a team and match them with mentors, and then match that production team, as Bill says, part of a studio, with a myriad of nonprofits. And you'll notice that the nonprofits had a wide range of their money, from SMUD down to smaller nonprofits. We wanted to see whether or not this project would make a difference in the students' lives in terms of what they will go on to do and their viewpoint of who they are in the society, and most importantly, what they could do in the community. So with that, having said that, my panel has witnessed this. Matt, I'll start with you. Do you have any observations about this project and what it means? You're representing one of the funders.
Well, Sierra Health Foundation has a long history in investing in young people. We have been funding youth development projects and with a youth development focus since 2006. This is, I think, just an validation of the role young people can play in their own, and like dictating their own future. So finding relevant education that will lead to employment opportunities in the future, ideally here locally, to continue that and keep our human capital here in our region. I think this partnership was a powerful example, and the videos were the byproduct of that, really. It's the relationships that have built over time. You have teachers who are committed to this cause and showing leadership in their districts, even if it hasn't been supported perhaps through or policy or funding from the district level. But now they're finding creative ways to support their students and keeping their curriculum updated year over year. And I think part of our hope is to get some new ideas on how to make sure that policy framework is set so that more students are offered these relevant opportunities, and I'm excited to hear the rest of the panelists' ideas on that.
Yes, now Debbie, you've been involved with Mayor Johnson's terrific effort in trying to bring the arts back, including film and video, into this area. Do you have any observations about what you've seen today?
This is a great example of something that I think we're going to build on in the Mayor's For Art's Sake initiative. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is how to leverage public dollars to support things going on in Sacramento. And we know that we've got some great teachers here doing some great work. There are a lot of schools that don't have digital arts teachers. They also don't have visual arts teachers or music teachers or dance teachers. And And so we've been awarded a planning grant from the AmeriCorps California Volunteers to find some ways to bring 25 AmeriCorps volunteers into the Sacramento region to run after-school and out-of-school programs in the arts. So for us, looking at what you've done, we have now an example of how to bring filmmakers in, and those filmmakers who then can help younger kids who are not in the middle of schools where you can get digital arts classes, get them to get involved in projects just like the ones that you've done. We can use your stories as a documenting a need and a success story to go after some funding that will give us 3 or 4 years of getting 25 AmeriCorps people into Sacramento to help bring arts into youth programming activities, after school and out of school, the Boys and Girls Club, and libraries, other places. So what you're providing is a great model. You're showing civic engagement and creativity and partnerships in a way that we can then build on and say, look, this is working here, here's some evidence, here's some ways to get more kids involved. So it's exciting.
Thank you. Matt Perry is representing Superintendent Jonathan Raymond. Jonathan has been a friend to this project since he's gotten into Sacramento. We've talked to him and Matt about ways in which we can work within Sacramento Unified. Matt, what do you think about what you've seen here today?
I think it's just an outstanding program, and I agree. It's a fantastic model. It's definitely a exact match with what we're trying to do with high school education in California and transform it towards more of what we call a linked learning model, where students are working on very, very real problems with real professionals in their real community, in the communities that they live in. And even for some better examples where we noticed today that students were crossing community boundaries and learning a lot from each other and breaking down walls. And so there's just a fantastic amount of excellent aspects of education here. But in truth of what needs to happen and change is I actually believe the graduation requirements at high schools are quite outdated. They're not keeping up with the demands of a much more global type of economy and communication network that exists today. Youth are pushing that envelope and that edge, and we're not keeping up. So I would strongly suggest a slight adjustment in graduation requirements, a 1-year media literacy course that just absolutely, completely complements the rest of the courses. So, and I think an interesting aspect of that is that faculty that are teaching high school courses just would love to have youth that could produce high quality media and presentations for their projects. And so it's kind of like one of the teachers said this, wouldn't we want education to be a bit more logical? And that's logic. Let's give youth some real confidence from real skills that they can use in the real world. So there's a lot of us working on this together, and I hope we can continue to collaborate. I've got a lot of work to do to try to bring us more into the DAPP world and find more ways to bring our teachers into and our students to contribute. So very good work, the funding and the effort and all of the time that was put into it. It's a great model that we can hope to take part in and to replicate.
Dennis Mangers has been with us as board member for about 10 years now, I think, and Dennis had the experience of working with Senator Steinberg, the Senate President, and has been a principal and involved in education for many years. Dennis encouraged Bill and I to think globally but build locally, and that's pretty much what we did here, or tried to do. So Dennis, do you have any initial reactions to what you're seeing here today?
Well, you can imagine how enthusiastic I remain after 10 years of being absolutely convinced you were all going in the right direction. I come at it from a historical standpoint. I began my career as an elementary school teacher, and then for a number of years as school principal. But after I left the legislature, for 27 years I represented the cable television industry. And when my clients awakened to the fact that they could soon take the 12-channel systems that they had developed as they introduced cable television to America, they could soon take those to 350 to 500 channels. It occurred to them there wasn't enough content, and they better start getting involved in the creative side. And thus you saw the explosion beginning with HBO, CNN, virtually now all the various creative outlets. But as I watched that process unfold and got more deeply into it, I realized that they were extending way beyond the borders of our own state and country to find the creative people to make that content available to these enormous pipelines that they were building, and now with fiber optics expanding beyond our imagination. So I kind of was drawn to this work because I had hoped that the combination of my educational, cable, and political experience, I might be able to help. At each step of the way, however, what Paul and Bill and I have discovered is that we have not found traction at the state or federal level with regard to the kind of legislation that's needed to provide the resources to fuel what our educator friends here are describing and what the previous panel described as their obvious needs. Frankly, at this point in time, I've come to the conclusion that we're probably a few years away from the kind of legislation and policy that we need to fuel this nascent movement among yourselves for media arts. And the only alternative at the moment, I think, is an increasingly well-organized kind of guerrilla social kind of network that we've seen virtually revolutionize countries, geographical sectors such as the Mideast recently. It's very clear to me what young people in league with adult allies can ultimately do to create bottom-up demand. I think that's what's going to have to happen here. Adults are constantly being taught day to day by young people how to use their own devices, of various kinds. I know I'm 70, and I call my grandson when I can't figure out my own telephone. So it's very clear to me that the demand that you young people in this audience and your teachers and your parents who are allies in this are going to have to get increasingly better organized, create the demand, and at the same time use organizations like this to form the partnerships with the private sector that will ultimately get to our friends in the Silicon Valley and get to our friends in the other creative areas in Burbank and the Valley that are currently turning to foreign sources for the lifeblood of our creative genius here in California, instead of investing in our schools to create our own base. I'm tired of trying to drum this into the head of legislators who are so distracted by $26 billion deficits and internecine political fighting, and have come to believe this is going to have to be ultimately propelled by an unparalleled social network movement.